Glyphosate in Canadian forests and the impending extinction of wildlife. There is a month-old article on a web-based platform from Prince George, British Columbia, Canada, called Citizen that claims moose living in nearby forests are dying in large numbers from starvation, and the reason is suspected to be herbicide spray. The article does not spell out glyphosate, but it implies it from my point of view. There is a long chain of correspondence under the article, with some arguing in favor of the use of glyphosate and commenting that the opponents of herbicide spray are just being unreasonable, unscientific, and with a knee-jerk reaction against the herbicide. A lot of others are countering that and are apparently opposed to the idea of using herbicides over prairies, grasslands, and forests. The article got shared by someone on Facebook, and thus it came to my notice. It's about 3 months old. I posted the following long comment on it in the discussion chain today, where it has not appeared yet and is presumably waiting for approval of the admin. I am copying it here as I believe it deserves to be on record and that can be traced back years later. Here is what I wrote. Glyphosate was first approved by Health Canada in the 1970s for agriculture. It saw Monsanto's test results on lab animals subjected to measured dose of glyphosate in their feed, based on which our government is presumed to have concluded that glyphosate was safe to be in animal food in small doses and hence approved its controlled use in Canadian agriculture. However, the government has kept those safety test data and reports hidden from the public till date, 40 plus years running. This non-disclosure of the safety data, irrespective of whatever agreement the government made with the herbicide promoter, makes approval of glyphosate in Canada to be constitutionally illegal in my view. And yet, the government hides the data and the use of glyphosate continues. Now, regarding spraying over the forests. It is under jurisdiction of provincial governments to allow or disallow any use of herbicide over crown forests. I have had several Freedom of Information Act applications with the British Columbia Ministry of Forest Management as well as Ministry of Environment in an effort to discover a few facts such as, number one, could I have a copy of whatever evidence the British Columbia government saw that spraying glyphosate over our forest was safe for our environment and biodiversity before it allowed glyphosate to be sprayed? And number two, could I have the records of how much glyphosate has been sprayed over our BC forest year upon year from the first year of application till date? I got reasonably candid responses back. A. The BC government has seen no evidence whatsoever if glyphosate is at all safe for our forests, on the grounds that the chemical was already approved by Ottawa. This despite the fact that Ottawa approved it only for controlled application in agriculture and that Ottawa has never disclosed the data that was supposed to prove glyphosate to be safe for any living organism. B. The British Columbia government does not have the data on how much glyphosate has been applied by the logging firms over the years, and if I paid the BC government several $1,000s in bracket because answering my question requires more than 5 man-hour labor by the government official that my Freedom of Information Act allows me, bracket close, then the BC government would ask around to all the logging firms if they kept those records and then collect them, compile them, and then prepare an answer for me. I refused to pay those extra dollars, and Therefore, I got only what the BC government had, which is small amounts of glyphosate applied by backpack carrying persons on small bushes and weeds at the edges of forest here and there, which was organized by local municipalities, etc., and not the aerial spray directly over forest as arranged by logging corporations. Glyphosate is a mimic of glycine. Glycine is the most common, in bracket most prevalent, bracket close, of all the 21 amino acids that make up all the proteins of the entire living world, from a bacteria to a whale, and includes all proteins in humans, plants, and wildlife. Animals and plants are constantly producing more proteins to replace old ones, and even more of them when the plant or the animal is young and growing fast. Our biology does not know how to distinguish glyphosate from glycine, mainly because glyphosate was not around in nature in the long history of evolution of life on Earth, and is a synthetic chemical invented 2 generations ago. Therefore, with glyphosate in the food, creatures pick it up in place of glycine and misincorporate them into newly formed proteins. These plant and animal proteins with glyphosate in place of glycine do not work as intended. The proteins become rogue proteins and can trigger a cascading series of diseases, many of which are synthetic ones that did not exist before. All this has already been investigated and reported, including in peer-reviewed journals. Canada has not conducted any such investigation on safety of glyphosate. Any scientist in Canada that wishes to look into how glyphosate works on the biology of the plant and animal kingdom is usually fired or made to shut up. As a result, Canada is in essence similar to a third world country where mass poisoning of the land and the people is a politically accepted practice to allow profit for foreign corporations. Welcome to Canada.